Hello and welcome to the War Report with Luke McBride. Today I'm going to be discussing the upcoming World Cruiserweight title fight between Chris Billam Smith and Richard the Midnight Train Riakporhe. Now, this, I think, honestly, has been fairly poorly promoted fight for the most part. I mean, I think both fighters, for the most part, in terms of personality, I think they're a little bit boring, to be honest. Like, neither of them are too. I mean, Riakporhe is fairly polite, doesn't really want to seem to say anything too controversial. He's got some brand deals, so I can kind of understand that. He reminds me a little bit of an Anthony Joshua type of character to some extent. But yeah, Billam Smith as well, same type of thing. Very polite, very it's very easy to see him going into punditry as he gets older. As a result, I think there's like a genuine mutual respect between the two of them. So yeah, not really been any sort of needle. But regardless of that, you don't need that necessarily to promote a fight, and it just feels like there's no buzz around this, and I'm kind of surprised, really, bearing in mind you know, there's only two British world champions at the moment, which is Billam Smith and Nick Ball, and this is an all British world title fight, and it's at a stadium as well, like a football stadium. So you know, it should be a pretty big deal, really, I think. But regardless, oh, and also it's not pay per view; it's being shown on Sky, so you know, I'm not entirely sure what the reason is why this hasn't really seemed to caught the public consciousness so much, but regardless, this is a rematch, of course, of a fight that took place 5 years ago. I think this is a bit of a weird case where, despite being a rematch, I don't think you can read too much into the first fight. I think both of them have changed quite significantly as fighters. I actually took notice of something that Riakporhe said in the Gloves Are Off, which was that he actually feels that Billam Smith has regressed since then. I found that kind of interesting because when the fight was announced, and I thought back to the first fight, I was thinking, as a whole, they've kind of improved. I mean, they've gone from domestic level to, world level. Billam Smith being a world champion already. But you know what? I've watched some stuff back. I've watched back bits of the first fight, which I do actually think Riakporhe won actually quite convincingly. I think he won it. I don't really understand why people talk about it being a robbery. I think Riakporhe won very comfortably with a knockdown as well. Um, but regardless, Billam Smith has really slowed down a lot since then. He's clearly visibly bulked up a bit, but I don't know. Like, just I think Billam Smith's problem, and I think this is going to be his undoing on Saturday night, is that he's been in too many wars. Really, I think every single time he steps in the ring, he has to take some to give some out. It doesn't matter who he's against. You know, people talk about the Masternak fight recently, and obviously it makes sense. It's the most recent fight. It's the most recent thing we can have to go on. Masternak is a completely different fighter to Riakporhe. Couldn't be more different stylistically. But having said that, it just it when does it stop being a coincidence that Billam Smith just gets hit repeatedly every single time he steps in? And I mean, yeah, the guy's got a very good chin. He's been able to take it. He's been able to overcome everything that's been thrown at him up to now. But I don't know. I think there's signs there that he really is slowing down, and that he's maybe the punch resistance is starting to go a little bit. I think against Masternak, I think he was about to go. To be honest, I think he was on his last legs when the fight actually came to an end. From what I've gathered, the type of injury that Masternak got was actually more just unfortunate rather than something that was forced by Billam Smith as well. I don't doubt that Billam Smith himself is a big puncher. I think that's where his real chances are in this fight. But yeah, I don't know. I truly think Riakporhe, he hasn't really been in with the quality of opposition to prove it necessarily up to now, but I honestly think he's one of the biggest punchers in the sport of boxing, pound for pound. And I think we're going to see a big knockout this weekend. That's my honest prediction. I think the main route to victory I can see for Billam Smith, honestly, is just a case of Riakporhe maybe being a bit too patient, because I think that's something over time, over the last few years, he seems to be getting very, very patient finding the knockout, which isn't a bad thing, but that can be your undoing sometimes as well when you're someone that's reliant on your punch power. So yeah, outside that, Billam Smith, he's not someone that wins a lot of rounds. He's not a very clean fighter. Even when he won the world title against Okoli, you know, that wasn't. If he didn't get those points deductions, there's a good chance he might have even not won that fight. To be honest, so Yeah, I don't know. I think Riakporhe is going to do the job personally. I'm going to be at the fight, so I certainly hope we get to see a big knockout. But yeah, it's yeah definitely one that I'm looking forward to. I think I can see this being a very entertaining fight. Um, but yeah, I think Billam Smith is just gradually deteriorating a little bit, and it's not, it makes perfect sense really when you look at the way that his fights go. And yeah, I think Riakporhe is the closest thing we've got now to what Wilder was, or maybe the way that Wilder was perceived before he fought Fury. Up to now, I mean, Riakporhe's kind of in the same boat where he's also not really fought anyone, although he's at least, for the level of fighter that he is, he's fighting the right sort of fighters, if that makes sense. Like, he's fought good domestic level cruiserweights like Billam Smith himself before, Sam Hyde, Jack Massey. But yeah, I think this will be a real test for him. This will be maybe a real moment for him to announce himself and hopefully be able to get the Oppenheimer fight going in September, like we're seeing rumored. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna say Richard Riakporhe by knockout. I think probably fairly late on in the fight. Like I say, Riakporhe is quite patient. Billam Smith for now does have a good chin. So yeah, I'll say the last few rounds. I think Riakporhe's going to do the job. I think Riakporhe's going to be up on the cards at the time when he gets the knockout as well. I don't think it's going to be against the runner play, so to speak. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes. And like I say, I'm going to be there, so I'm hoping for a great fight.